Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first district-wide planning committee meeting. My name is Councillor Sheikh Ullah. For those of you that are not aware, item number 1, membership of the committee. Councillor Bellamy.
I'm expecting Councillor McGrath, but I presume he's running a little late. Thank you.
Councillor Munro.
Good afternoon. I'm substituting for Councillor Marchington this afternoon. Thank you.
Chair, I'm not sure about Councillor Pervez. She might be arriving late or not. I'm not sure. No contact with her.
No problem. Apologies then.
Chair, we've just had apologies from Councillor Pervez. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2, declarations of interest and lobbying.
None, Chair.
None. None.
Hello. Yes, I've been lobbied in respect of this planning application. Thank you.
None, Chair.
Thank you.
Have you been lobbied, Chair?
No, none from me. Okay, item number 3, admission of the public.
There's no items in private, Chair.
Thank you. Item number 4, deputations and petitions.
None received.
Thank you. Item number 5, public question time.
There's no public questions.
Number 6 was the site visit, which I can confirm was undertaken this morning. Okay then, first application at Forest Road. John?
Thank you, Chair. Here we go. Thank you, Chair. My name is John Holmes and I'm presenting this application for 9 dwellings which members have been asked to consider. This application is brought to Planning Committee at the request of Councillor McGuinn. So this drawing shows the layout of the site. So you can see plot 1 is down here on the sort of southwestern boundary, and then plot 9 at the top here on the eastern boundary. Forest Road is running at the frontage to the north of all the dwellings. This drawing shows the elevations to plots 2 and 9. You can see the 3-storey properties, and a level of works would be undertaken within the site to accommodate the dwellings, given the sloping nature of the site, which will be shown on photos shortly. This shows the floor plans of plots 2 and 9. Sorry, 2 to 9. And this would be a standalone property detached to that's plot 1. This shows its elevations and floor plans. This shows sections of the site. The slope of the site is accommodated within these drawings. You can see it comes down here. That shows the existing slope and how the land levels would be changed to accommodate the dwellings, as well as the rear amenity spaces. So this is a photograph of the site viewed from Forest Road and shows the site when facing east. And this shows the western boundary of the site. And this shows the eastern boundary again. These properties here are 3-storey and have a similar design to those that are proposed as part of this application. This photo shows buildings within the site that had be demolished. And these show the general street scene, which is a mix of properties with single-storey bungalows opposite the site, and as well as terraced and also semi-detached properties in the general locality. So this shows the aerial view of the site also. So the site is designated as urban green space and forms part of the wildlife habitat network within Kirklees local plan. The proposal would see the redevelopment for 9 dwellings, with 5 of the units being offered as affordable housing. The scheme is largely the same development as that which has previously been granted planning permission, with the previously approved application also securing 5 dwellings as affordable housing. As set out in the committee report, the principle of development is finely balanced against the loss of urban green space and whether other material considerations are present which clearly indicate the circumstances which justify this loss. The site is in a sustainable location and the urban green space which would be lost is not considered to be of particularly high value. There is no public access over the site, and when considered against the fact there would be a further provision of housing, including 5 number affordable units, it's considered these outweigh the fact the development would be contrary to the development plan. The principle is therefore considered to be acceptable in this case. 7 objections have been received, with the matters raised and summarised in the committee report and addressed in that report too. The proposed development is considered to have an acceptable visual impact subject to conditions requiring materials, boundary treatments and finished floor levels to be approved. And the impact upon the amenity of future occupiers of the development, as well as that of neighbouring occupiers, is considered acceptable, subject to condition restricting the construction hours. As set out in the committee report, subject to condition which increases the width of the off-street parking spaces and conditions to ensure the stability of Forest Road, the proposal is considered to be acceptable with regard to access and highway safety. With regard to trees and ecology issues, conditions are recommended to secure biodiversity gains on site and also ensure the protection of trees during the construction phase. Conditions to ensure land quality are recommended, and as set out in the update provided to members, the condition recommending the restriction of the discharge rate of surface water from the site is recommended to be altered to state it would be at a rate of 3 litres per second rather than 5. It's considered that the principle of development is finely balanced in this case, and the overall conclusion being that in this instance the development of this part of the allocated urban green space, in fact it would result in the loss of this part of the green space allocation, is acceptable, subject to the provision of affordable housing being secured as part of the development of the site. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Any speakers, Andrea?
No public speakers, Chair.
Shall we,
I've got Councillor Burnham.
we'll bring Bernard in?
Yep.
Yep. Councillor McGuinn, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. Congratulations on your chairmanship of the committee. Okay. I did refer them for a variety of reasons, but there is one main reason I didn't mention. So, as you've seen, you've visited, the land is very steep. There's a lot of runoff water in the area, where people down at the bottom of the hill on Oldham Avenue have complained about drainage issues coming down the field. I believe that building here would only add to the problem. It's a very steep land. Below Forest Road is very steep. The other objections I had was the height of the buildings. You're going to have 3-storey buildings overlooking the other side of the road. We've got drainage. We've got parking problems on Forest Road. You could see from the picture there, it's very crowded. Now, any further traffic on there would just make matters worse. But I think the main reason why you should reject this is in the Kirklees' local plan. Part of it is designated urban green space. I've got a group because I'm an Ombury ward councillor, as you probably know. There's a group in Almonbury called the Almonbury Bank Preservation Group. They do tremendous amount of work in the area. So what you saw in the picture was some trees behind the proposed housing area. Further along is Almonbury Bank, and they do great work. They look after the wildlife. They look after the trees. They look after the paths. They clear the paths, clear deadwood. They generally do a good job helping Kirklees Council keeping it a good space for people to look at, to walk in, to look at the wildlife. Any further disruption would I believe, hinder their work. I have supported this group in the 8 years of being a councillor. One of the first grants I ever gave was to give them a grant for a saw to help them with getting rid of deadwood. They have come back with for grants, as they always do. They've helped to manage the area very well in the 8 years I've been a councillor. Of course, it was mentioned that this land was private, so they don't have access to the land. I'm sure they'd love to get their hands on this area and look after it as part of the urban green and make sure that it's looked after as a good urban green space. And if you don't know Almonbury at all, a lot of it is around here is very much built up area. And if you were to build on here, I'd describe it as a tragedy because there aren't many open green space areas like this available. So people do care about it. I've even been in the woods to help them on a couple of occasions, getting rid of the dead wood. So I better watch out now. I'm retiring. Okay, I just say, please, you've got a good reason to reject this application purely on the basis that it's urban green space. I do take the planner's point that it might not be good value at the moment because it's not being managed well, but it could be managed better, and we've got a group there willing to do the work on that area because they've proved it in the adjoining woods. So you've got your reason to reject it. I just leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor McGuinn. We have no other speakers, so it's over to the committee for the main debate. Councillor Munro.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So I'm going to start off with urban green space from the local plan. Green infrastructure, such as Almonbury Bank Woodland, provides a green infrastructure for the area which delivers multiple benefits and helps with mitigation of climate change. It improves health and well-being, it improves pollution in the air and provides habitats for wildlife. We need such infrastructure, and it can also help increase life expectancy and reduce health inequality. I would like to know how many trees will be felled in these plans, regardless of their size. They still sequester harmful CO2. Any damage to tree roots in the construction of these units will potentially kill existing trees. Apart from anything else, you're damaging the wildlife habitats of bats and birds, and I don't agree with that. I would like to know if a bat survey has already been undertaken. I note the proposal is to include putting up bat boxes, but ultimately these plans will destroy these protected species habitats. Planning policy PLP 5 of the local plan requires higher standards of design that respect the character of the landscape, adjacent settlements and the built development. These plans here in terms of numbers of houses and height of properties overwhelm space from enhancing the landscape. Far from enhancing the landscape, they detract from it. So I do not believe planning policy PLP 5 has been met in this case. PLP 5C, neither do I believe that the criteria has been met. The development is overwhelming in terms of density and relation to the site and housing opposite, and forms no relationship with the surrounding landscape. I have concerns about surface water runoff. This will be increased once you start felling trees. as tree roots soak up water. And so this development will only add to the surface water runoff. Finally, as I've already alluded to, and my colleagues already spoken at length, the trees form part of the woodland of Almondbury Bank, which is managed and maintained by a local community group. And they've done an awful lot of work in that area, maintaining the footpaths, keeping them litter-free, and providing a wonderful amenity for local people. And I'd like to see this part of Almondbury Woods managed in a better way. And I therefore ask this committee to reject this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Munro. Councillor Sokol.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've been on the site visit this morning. I thought urban green spaces, always the green spaces are well maintained, yeah, by the local resident or the local authority. But when I saw this site, on the site visit, it looks like a derelict site. It doesn't look like a urban green space which it should have been. No resident played any part on to clean up the area, whatever. So it's still anyway urban green space, but it's not well maintained by anyone. Yeah. Chair, I actually agree with some objection here by the public member. There will be a disruption during the construction, including use of machinery and associated noise. Because if you look on the narrowness of the road and this side right on the main road, yeah, on Forest Road, I think there will be disruption. The construction company will park the machinery on the main road or obstruct the pavement, blocking resident walk, pedestrian or school children going to school. Yeah, I think we must put some strong condition if we decide, this member decide to approve this application. And I think the construction working hours are a bit too low. It starts 7:30 in the morning. I think it's a bit too early. Yeah, I think it should be 8:30 or 8 o'clock. Let the children go to school or parents walk over there. And if they say they close the working hours 6:30, I think that's too late as well. Yeah. And the construction work should finish about 5:30 or before 5:30, something like that. Give the residents, because the opposition, all the residents should not suffer anything like that. Yeah. So that's what from me. I think I see what members say about this one.
Thank you, Councillor Sokol. Councillor Firth and then Councillor Bellamy.
Yes, I too went on the site visit this morning, and the pictures that have been shown by the officers do not reflect what it looks like when I saw it today. Urban green space, it looks like an urban eyesore, and it's screaming out for development. And I know, as Councillor Sokol says, there will be disruption because they've got to dig out the bank. But providing the water attenuation probably means putting some tanks in somewhere to stop the flow from going down to 5 litres a minute to 3. I think it's a good development. It will fit in well with the mixed development that's in the surrounding area. And I move the officer recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Firth. So we've had a formal move for the officer recommendation to approve. Councillor Bellamy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I have got some concerns with this one. I do agree that the photos didn't reflect what we saw today, and yeah, it does. It could do with the tidy up. But My concerns are more to do with the road itself, and it's quite narrow. I wouldn't say it's particularly wide, and there were quite a fair few parked cars on there this morning when we went, and the bus sort of weaved in and out. So I can imagine that later on in a day, when people aren't at work and everybody's got the cars there, that it could be even more constrained on that road. And that is my worry of, you know, how much more traffic is it going to generate and how many more parked cars will be on that road. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bellamy. Councillor Homewood.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just on the road and parking, you know, I think it is a narrow road, and there is issues there in terms of access. Anyway, I understand that. I think if I understand the report correctly and the discussions that we've had on it, you know, those properties will all have the adequate amount of off-street parking. You can only park on one side of the road anyway, so actually it doesn't sort of fundamentally change the reality, which is that there isn't a massive amount of parking on that street. So I think it probably will help the people who already live there, but it won't actually necessarily make it worse, because there'll be the cars that will be created will be off-street parked. I suppose the only thing I was going to say, you know, I understand the point about the urban green space. I don't know the area as well, obviously, as Councillor McGuinn, but there does appear to me to be a fair amount of urban green space, because there's urban green space across on the other side of the road as well. There was a large field, I don't know that being. Anyway, but there is some other space in the area, and I'd agree that it doesn't seem to me particularly the type of urban green space that is going to be used for any other type of sort of recreational activity or anything like that. I think the other thing to say about the scheme is obviously the affordable housing is very positive in terms of that element of it, which obviously we don't usually get in these schemes. So I think that's something to add in, and the fact that I appreciate the local plan's been adopted since this point, but we have a previous you know, agreed planning application, so I think, you know, that makes it obviously more difficult in terms of the, you know, why you would reject it. So on that basis, I'd be happy to second Councillor Firth's moving the officer recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Homewood. So we've had a mover and a seconder in Councillor Firth and Homewood to approve the application. John, would it be worth just having a quick summary on a couple of things? Tree loss, bat survey and roads. Someone said something about but the tree loss and the bat survey, please.
Yeah, okay, so in terms of tree loss, there would be a number of trees removed. I can go back to the photographs if you'd like, just to highlight those. Just bear with me. So the actual site itself, you can see roughly where the cursor is, that's the rear boundary of the site. So the actual mature trees at the rear fall outside of the actual application site itself, and a condition would be in place to sort of ensure their protection. There is a number of sort of small-scale shrubs. I'm not sure if they would be classified as trees that are within the site, so you can see there's one there. And with just small scale kind of vegetation within the site itself, that would obviously be removed and cleared. These are probably the most significant vegetation that's within the site that would have to be cleared. But ultimately, they're not considered to be of such a status that they'd be worthy of any sort of protection or sort of TPO or something like that. In terms of bat survey, no bat survey has accompanied the planning application. It's not considered that one's necessary to enable the LPA to make a decision on the application. So hopefully that answers those two questions, Chair. In terms of parking, thank you.
Through you, Chair, ranking the Highway Development Management. It is acknowledged that there's a level of on-street parking on Forest Road, which is existing. However, it should be noted that there's a similar development adjacent to this site, which shows properties number 56 to 62, and there's no off-street parking opposite for the terraced dwellings. This operates without any known issues. In addition, there's sufficient parking as part of this development off-street provided. Given this, there's no grounds for objection from a highways perspective. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ryan. I think there was...
Can I ask the officer about the hours, the construction hours? Thank you.
Teresa?
It's through you, Chair. Teresa Harlow, Team Leader Development Management. We have at the moment a condition 3 in your papers at section 12 that just relates to hours of construction. In section 10.62 of the report, we also refer to a construction environmental management plan which would strengthen not only the hours of construction but also parking provision, routing for traffic, storage of construction materials. So my suggestion would be that we update condition 3, instead of it being hours of construction, to a full construction environmental management plan and include hours in that as well. So we're holistically looking at everything to do with construction. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So we've had a mover and a seconder with that condition on there. I don't think there's anything else. I think Andrea will move to the vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. So the vote is to vote on the officer's recommendation to delegate for approval. Councillor Sokol?
For.
Councillor Firth?
For.
Councillor Homewood?
For.
Councillor Munro?
Against?
Councillor McGrath?
For.
Councillor Bellamy?
Against.
Councillor Uller?
For.
So that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. That concludes our meeting. Thank you for your attendance.